So tell me a little bit about the company that you worked for, Trillium.
Yeah. So Trillium Asset Management is an investment firm, a socially responsible investment firm based in Boston that I worked for about 4 years before I left to run for treasurer. Trillium is a socially responsible investment firm that manages about $1.5 billion and has been around for over 30 years. And basically what we do is we specialize in investing for clients that had social criteria that they care about when they invest. For example, we invested money for a lot of religious organizations that wanted to invest in a way that was in keeping with their faith. We had clients like the Sierra Club and Greenpeace who wanted to invest perhaps not in coal companies or in fossil fuel companies, but have endowments or education funds that they wanted to invest and make a return on. So we were able to invest for those clients in a way that was in keeping with their social values and make a good return at the same time. We offer, as I said, different versions and different products at Trillium. All of our major products performed well. We made better than 30% in all of them in 2013. Most of them beat their market benchmarks, so I'm proud to say that we were able to produce good financial performance for our clients at the same time that we were able to help them invest in a way that was in keeping with their social values.
And can you give me kind of and maybe you just did, but can you give me a socially responsible investing for dummies? You know, like how do you, so let's take the Sierra Club, for example. Yeah. How would it be that you would work to get the Sierra Club a 30% return on their investment without investing in coal and LNG?
Yeah. Well, I should say that I can't comment on the investments of a specific client, but in general, the way we do it is essentially a two-step process. We analyze companies for their financial strength the same way that any investment firm would, and that's how I would spend a lot of my time, is diving into the financial reportings of companies and looking at how much growth I thought there would be or how profitable I thought they would be. But then we would also look at their performance on environmental, social, and corporate governance metrics to try to see who the leaders and laggards were in each industry on those metrics. And really, what we would find is a lot of times the companies that did the most to protect themselves against environmental risk or the risk associated with having poor social policies would also do the best financially in the long run. And so that's why we were able to produce very strong performance at the same time that we were able to be respectful and supportive of our clients' social outlooks.
I want you to promise me right now that when you're general treasurer, you'll invest all our money that way.
Well, I need to be clear about something. I want to join Trillium because I believe that everyone has a right to invest in a way that they feel comfortable with. And it wasn't necessarily me putting my views on how they should invest. It was us at Trillium facilitating them. For example, we had some organizations, some Catholic organizations, who didn't want to invest in companies that supported abortion. Yep. Now, that's not my viewpoint, but I believe that they have a right to invest in a way that they feel comfortable with. The job of the treasurer is a little different. Yeah. As treasurer, you have a legal fiduciary obligation to get the best possible financial return, risk-adjusted financial return that you can for those folks in the pension system. And so the job is a little bit different. Now, if there's some company that's polluting or treating their workers badly, and I think there's another option that will get us just as good of a financial return, then of course you make the switch. That's a no-brainer.
But because of your fiduciary, or because of a treasurer's fiduciary responsibility, you can't necessarily say, I'm not going to invest in company X because I don't like what they do.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, this pension system exists for the 60,000 or so people who are in the system, who have spent their lives serving the rest of us, who have just been through a very difficult experience with this pension reform. And both as a legal obligation and also I think as a moral obligation, I have to invest in a way that will get the best possible return for them.
Okay, and then so as far as to take this full circle, at the beginning we talked about taking a small percentage and investing in it in a different way.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
Well, that is purely a financial bet. I really do believe that there's a lot of potential here in Rhode Island in our innovation economy, And again, I'm not talking about putting the whole pension fund in there or even a large percentage of it. I'm talking about a fraction of a percent. And I do think we can make a competitive return there. I do think that the startup companies coming out of Brown and URI and RISD can do just as well as those coming out of universities in Austin or Seattle or wherever else. So again, I'm talking about a fraction of a percent, and I do think we can make a competitive financial return by doing that at the same time that we support economic growth in the state.
Love that. So, taking aside the fiduciary responsibility, do we invest our pension fund in a way that fits with Rhode Island's values or any state's values for that matter?
That's a very good question, and I have already talked about some of the changes I would like to make in how we invest, especially my ideas for bringing fees down and being more transparent. I think another aspect of what we could do differently when it comes to managing the pension system is showing a little more muscle in how we vote our proxies as shareholders. And this is something that I talked about when I came and did my interview with you last year.
That's right.
But what this is, and this is something else we do at Trillium, by the way, when you are a shareholder in a company, you are an owner of that company. And there are certain rights that come with that, including the right to go to the annual meeting every year and vote on a whole range of issues of company policy. And there are some places like Trillium and even some pension funds like in New York City where they've started using these voting rights to get companies to clean up their act, to treat their workers better, to behave better environmentally, to reduce excessive executive compensation. And in Rhode Island, we haven't been very active in that, and I'd like us to be. I'd like us to change our voting policies and how we vote on these issues, because we're not always voting the right way on them when they come up on the ballot now. And I'd also like to see us be more proactive in putting things on the ballot to get companies to clean up their act, especially when there's a direct impact on Rhode Island.
And are there instances when you've seen that or noticed that, or you give me an example of when was there a time we invested in a company or shouldn't have invested in a company because they weren't acting in the best interest of Rhode Island?
Well, one example that I think back to several years ago was when there was the big LNG controversy with Hess, where they wanted to put a big terminal in Providence, and there were a lot of concerns, first Providence and then Fall River, and there were a lot of concerns about environmental impact, about safety. This was post 9/11, so Homeland Security was a big concern. And I think that in retrospect, what we should have done is realize, we are one of the owners of Hess. We have a lot of money invested in them through the pension system, and at the very least, that should give us an avenue to go to the company and raise our concerns and put some pressure on them as owners, because they work for us. I don't think that you would necessarily want to divest in a situation like that. I think that you would want to maintain your share ownership as an owner of the company and go to the company and have some serious conversations about the impact that they're having.